SMWX. No young people are around the decision-making table. Let some new voices come to the fore. Follow us on WhatsApp and catch us live Tuesdays and Thursdays. Out with the old, in with the new. SMWX. Deluge. Let me just tell you, we thought we maybe would get like 10,000 people in the first month. 5,000 in a day. So we want your contributions. And remember, this is just the beginning of this process. This is just the election. There are going to be so many different ways that we, as this network, are going to be able to contribute to something. And we're really interested in seeing how you can do that. For example, just think of a news aspect. We've got a national network of thousands of people in every locality. What if you're seeing something in your area that nobody's seen, and you take out your phone, you send a video to us, we vet it, make sure that it's not fake news, and we can actually share that to the entire network if it's something major. So there are going to be many ways that we can leverage this incredible network that we've built, not only for entertainment, which there will be, or information, which there will be, but even for building a ground-up grassroots news platform. But remember, we're in the opening phases. And so let me come to another question which speaks about specifically what we're doing now. One of you asked, and remember that unless you give us your names and your identities, we're not going to share them. So one of you asked, is this an election show, or is it a news show, or is it a party political show? What's the story here? So this is a platform and a channel that's built around this election right now. What we're able to do with this will determine how far we go. Do we carry this on after the election? Does the shockwave continue? That'll be your decision as much as mine. But in terms of what we're doing for this election, it's the same old voices on the same old channels everywhere else you look, right? Sometimes I even wonder, like, how does the same analyst host one show and then is suddenly on TV at the same time? Like, how do they even have time to be in so many places at once? So firstly, we want to cut through a lot of the traditional mainstream media bias in this election, particularly as it relates to young people. Because young voices, sometimes they get like 2 minutes on TV or on radio, but they don't actually get the sustained focus that is crucial for an election like this, in a country like this, in a moment like this. There's a crisis facing all young South Africans, no matter where you come from. We're in the hardest country, basically in the world, to find a job. And you can't get a young person on the radio or the TV to talk about it in an election year. So we're going to be centering the youth voice, both in the guests that we invite. So we want young activists, we want young politicians, up-and-coming people from all parties. We want sports people. We want musicians, rappers, artists, writers. We want to make sure that there's gender diversity. We want to make sure that there's racial diversity. But of course, it's not like we're only going to speak to young people. If we do speak to other people, like let's say we get a chance to interview Cyril Ramaphosa, and we should we not, given how powerful our network is, then if we're going to be speaking to someone who's, say, not in our generation, we're going to be asking questions from the perspective of our generation. And in that way, this becomes a platform and a channel to make the youth voice matter in this election. And unless we have our own channels and our own ways of distributing this, outthinking the corrupt, quite frankly, status quo, we're never going to get a seat at the table. So we have to make our own seat, make our own table, sit down, and tell people to come to the table that we just made. And that's what we're doing with this. In terms of a party political affiliation, look, I'm well aware, many people have asked, is this some kind of EFF channel? Your father is Advocate Dali Mpofu. Is this some kind of clandestine, conspiratorial, underground propaganda channel? And there's a number of things I want to say to that, because I can understand why people would think that, it's perfectly normal. It's a normal response. But I just want people to think about something for a minute. Because in a patriarchal society, we always see people through the lens of the most powerful man in their life. So isn't it weird that you would think that everything I'm doing and all the expense and thought investment in terms of energy alone is because I want to serve some powerful man in my life. Like, I've written a book. I'm doing my PhD at Oxford. I've thought about this stuff. And I'm not going to be used by anyone. And that's exactly why I'm not going on traditional channels. And so this is not funded by any political party. This is not any project of any party. And we will be unapologetic about getting answers from a youth perspective from everybody. That doesn't mean we're not going to have our own perspective. That doesn't mean we don't care about issues of inequality, issues of gender, issues of race in our society. It doesn't mean we don't care about those. We care very deeply. But we're not pushing anyone's agenda, and we're insulted by the insinuation that we would be. So another one of you asked, what's my view on young people not being given really any space in Parliament? Especially, I guess you could extend that to the cabinet as well. Even in high decision-making places in the corporate space, why are there so many young, dynamic South Africans? But when it comes to decision-making, it's like we just get blue-ticked. Sorry to use a WhatsApp. I haven't been blue-ticking anyone, right? I haven't blue-ticked like any one of the 6,000 so far. So thank you for that. I guess you could say we're all in the same WhatsApp group, which is also kind of funny. But yeah, like, I think the reason why our voice is so muted and so, in many ways, strangled is because we haven't built our own platforms. Take labor, for example, or take business. Business doesn't go around saying, oh, we really want you to take our voices seriously. Please take our voices seriously. Labor doesn't go around saying, we really want to be taken seriously. There's a platform, there's organization, and there's a media infrastructure that feeds into that platform. And unless we have that as young South Africans who care about the future, who bear the brunt of the dramatic failures that we've all been subject to, then we're not going to be at the table. So I'm sick of begging. I'm sick of trying to convince old people who are holding on to these powerful positions that they really should take us seriously. And now it's just about doing it ourselves. And believe me, they're watching, and they are worried about the sheer power of what you have been able to build in 3 days. So, how does this thing work? Who's behind the scenes of this? Well, let's talk about how it works on the channel. I know, thousands of you are already on the WhatsApp channel, but for those of you who are watching who aren't on the WhatsApp channel, just go to any of my social media accounts and click on the link that takes you, using your phone, click on the link that takes you into the WhatsApp experience. Once you click that link, it'll take you through, read through the privacy and data provisos, click OK. Once you click OK, you're going to be taken into what looks like a one-on-one, and in many ways is, a one-on-one conversation with a new person. Save the contact as SMW X, and voila. Click hello. And from there, we'll have an interesting conversation where you follow the prompts. You can watch episodes as they roll out in the future. You can check all the options of the channel by clicking options. And just think of it as a game. Think of it as like a mobile game on your phone. Become like an expert. Become like a black belt in the SMW X experience. I'm pretty sure like the young people watching this are going to be doing things with the channel that we didn't even think was possible, just in the way that they innovate around using it. So treat it as a game and become good, and let's have an interesting conversation which is really taking place in like 3029, even though we're in 2019. In terms of, is there anyone behind this? Look, this is a partnership. On the editorial side, on the political views, on the guests, on interviewing the guests, I'm on this. But this is also a technology project. And what's really important is that, hello, people on Twitter, how are you? Welcome to Communications in 3029. And what's really important is just that my technology, the technology partner is Tanga Live. You'll see it if you're on Facebook and YouTube. It's an incredible company at the intersection of technology and media. They are behind the incredible images that you see and the vision, the technological vision and the WhatsApp side of it. And so it's a collaboration between young South Africans no clandestine major funder anywhere, just people saying, how can we innovate? How can we take what little we have and try to build something new that gains traction? And that's exactly what it is. So thanks for that question. Another one of you on the channel said that I have no idea who to vote for. What are the kinds of questions young people should ask when they consider making a choice? Which is a really astute question, I think, because one of the problems, I think, in South Africa has been we treat political parties like soccer teams, right? So if you're an ANC person, then you think you have to vote ANC for your entire life. Hello, people on Twitter. Welcome to Communication in 3029. So if you're an ANC person, you think you have to subscribe to the ANC for your entire life. If your parents voted DA or vote DA, you think you have to vote DA for your entire life, and EFF, etc. But the fact of the matter is that as young people, we need to start thinking with our heads and not our hearts. And so what we need to be thinking as is, in the next 5 years, in terms of our lives, our livelihoods, the livelihoods of our generations, our siblings, the people that we know, how can we make sure that this generation is taken care of? How can we think through questions of inequality, questions of land, questions of the crisis that confronts young women in this country when it comes to sexual violence? How can we think through questions of the accessibility and affordability of education? So I would be asking myself, look, even if I think there's not a perfect option, which is the least worst option for this generation? And those are the kinds of questions I would be asking. I'm definitely voting. I think we should all be voting, but we should be voting in an informed way, and maybe in a way that challenges the way that people have thought about how should I vote as a question before. So that's the question I'm going to ask. And I'm certainly not going to tell you who to vote for, and I think it's good that people vote for different parties at different times in the context of a democracy. So hope that helps you clarify your decision. I know voting is never an easy one, but yeah, it was the economist John Maynard Keynes who said, if you can't find a political home by the law of attraction, you must find one by the law of repulsion. So I think do that if you're finding it difficult. Cool, let's keep going with your questions. And literally, as I said, so many streamed in, but we're just going to choose the ones that we can. Are we heading down a route where corruption is so rampant that we don't know how to operate without it? Wow. And there's a lot there. It's like, sometimes I wonder, and maybe you wonder this as well, like, is our society so fundamentally broken from its start that there's no way to fix it? And it's a deep question. Like, it's all well and good to be optimistic, and, you know, especially with this platform, there's pressure to be like a young, optimistic face. But actually, you know what? Like, when I look at the conditions of young people like Ekhayelitsha, or, you know, in Seshego, or just anywhere in our country, you know, Attridgeville, sometimes you wonder, like, is the foundation so broken that it's hard to build something out of it? I think what's really important is that, again, the voices of young people are brought to bear on the powerful through accountability. When you have a parliament that's ostensibly filled with old people who've been saying the same old things, they do the same old things. And we need to see how we can use this platform also as an accountability platform, you know, as a whistleblower platform. Does any of our followers have information that they want to share with us? Obviously, we're going to check it and verify it, because we want to make sure that the information we're providing at all times is verified. But do we use this as a platform for accountability as well as I say, entertainment and information? And as young people from the ground up really start the corruption conversation from a completely different angle. I think the other thing about corruption is, the hard thing to deal with is that because corruption is so pervasive in our society, it's always proximate to any one of us. And so it takes bravery to speak to the people who you're closest to in any form of life, whether you're in the corporate world, whether you're in the political world, And as a young person, a young politician, a young activist, a young author, a young artist, to actually stand up and say, listen, we might be close, but there's a bigger mission here, and this is not okay. So hope that helps. Really interesting also considering just the recent murmurings that the NPA has suggested that it should actually have brought charges against the former president. So look, we don't want to detain you too long. This has been our first stream. I'm going to go to a last question. And it is, so first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on the best idea. Well, thank you. And also for the team that's behind this. We appreciate the compliment. Will the show continue after the election period, or is this only for the elections? And that's up to you, because I believe there's something here that is bigger than any one of us who are part of starting this could have imagined. And I believe there's something here that is not just interesting in terms of South Africa, but is actually of global significance if we do this right. And if we can sustain that, it is scary. But at the same time, that relies on all of us building this thing together and sharing and iterating continuously and making sure that we're using technology, but we're using technology to include as opposed to exclude. Like, how crazy would it be? I mean, most of this conversation has been in English. How crazy would it be if we could translate, say, the WhatsApp channel, nesiXhosa, nesiZulu, in Afrikaans, or in all languages? Then all of a sudden we've got this technology which you can have a conversation with, a political conversation with, you can get content that's in your language. And it's stuff like that that we need to think through and build out. And I'm very conscious of that. Conscious that no one person can do this right, but I'm trying to use the platform that I have to spark something really important. And I hope that multiple young people do the same thing. Don't hate. Like, replicate. If there's something you see in this, but you're like, yeah, but there's a deficiency here, cool, fill that deficiency and do your thing. And let's build a network which will also be harder to tear down, of young people innovating in this media and political space. And that's how I feel about it. I'm 30 years old, for those of you who asked. And thanks for the compliments on the shirts. I really appreciate it. It's been incredible so far. And I think our next goal has to be 10,000 users. You know, we're at like 6,500 right now, which is just mind-blowing in less than like 60 hours. So let's try and get to 10,000 users. Spread this stream everywhere. It's going to be available on YouTube after this. You're going to be able to watch this back. It's not just live. And let's spread this everywhere we can. And let's start something new. Let's spread the fire. Aye. Let's do this. Let's do this, people. The time is high for this. It's high time. And, I just feel like if not now, then certainly never. SMWX. SMWX. No young people are around the decision-making table. Let some new voices come to the fore. Follow us on WhatsApp and catch us live Tuesdays and Thursdays. Out with the old, in with the new. SMWX.